Kit Wertz with you, Flower Duet. Welcome to another class. We're going to do something really fun for St. Patrick's Day that doesn't use any floral foam. So I'm going to show you how to put chicken wire into a vase, and then we're going to design, and this is going to go together beautifully. We're going to use this, it's almost a 5 by 5 inch cylinder, and it's opaque, which is great for using chicken wire inside as your architecture. It's watertight. This is actually a plant pot, so you would put a plant inside that has a drainer in the middle. We're going to use, this is almost 5 by 5. We're going to use an 8 by 8 inch square piece of chicken wire. Actually, it's like 7 by 8. So you just count the holes to do your estimate of how big you want it. And then what I like to tell my students is you take your hands like this, and then you just make a fist, and then you bring it together. So you take it together, fist it, then bring it together to make like a dome. And you want to you don't want to ball it up too much because you want to make it so you can get your stems through, but you do want the bottom to kind of wrap around a little bit. So you have a little bit of a ball shape, but think more domey. And then we're going to place it into our container so that it just goes underneath the lip line. And it's snug, meaning if I turned it upside down, it's not going to fall out. And I'll give you a close-up shot of that so you can see it. Once you have your chicken wire in there, sometimes people put floral tape on top. You want to make sure it's the waterproof kind. This is a nice deep container. I don't think we need to put floral tape in to keep it secure. Then you're going to add your water. Make sure you already have flower food in it. About 3/4 full, because you want to make sure that any stems that are going to be kind of maybe going across higher are still in the water. So now let's introduce you to the flowers. We're going to make a pretty rounded design, so all of our flowers are fairly round. We're going to have some Mini Green Hydrangea, which is hydrangea that is harvested a little bit on the early side. Green Trick Dianthus, which is related to Sweet William. All the flowers have been removed or hybridized out, and they just leave the little fluffies. It looks like moss. People love this as a textural flower. We're going to use some white roses. These are called Playa Blanca. They are more white than creamy. Some beautiful white anemones with navy blue faces. And some ruscus for our greenery. So let's show you how to clean each type of flower. The anemones don't need any cleaning. They don't have any greenery on them, and they do have a little collar of greenery, and you want to leave that there. It's just a little fact, if anemones do grow a little bit after they've been cut, so this stem is way far away from the little collar, that means it's a little older. It's been maybe sitting in a bucket of water for a long time. So the farther that flower is away from the collar, the older it is. And we have our Playa Blanca roses, and a lot of times we tell our students there's many ways to clean a rose, but this is one that will always work. Stand it up on its tippy toes, take your floral cutters, turn it around till you see where all the leaves are. You can leave a couple up near the top if you want, but only if they look good. Then you want to look for thorns, and if there are any thorns, you just cut them off. Because that way when it goes into the chicken wire, it's not going to get caught on anything, and it won't get caught on any of the other stems. Then you want to look for any cushion petals you might need to remove. These are petals that if you buy wholesale, they have not been removed. If you're buying it from a grocery store or from a florist, they've already been removed. And those are just going to help the flower open a little bit and look a little better. Our Green Trick Dianthus doesn't have that many leaves, but there will be leaves wherever there's a joint. This is in the carnation family. So you want to remove any of those leaves right near the joints that are going to be below the water line. Also, you could remove all the leaves just because they're not going to last as long as the flower. So it's just better off cleaning them off. And when you do remove them, be careful. These joints are very delicate. Hydrangea, if you've ever worked with hydrangea and the florets get droopy, it's most likely because you left too many leaves on. The leaves are very full and very full of water. So if you leave the leaves on the stem, they're going to go fill up this leaf, fill up that leaf, fill up this leaf before they get all the way up here. So if you're having trouble keeping your hydrangea hydrated, take off the leaves and just maybe leave a couple close to the top. And then finally we have our ruscus. Ruscus is a linear greenery. I've already pulled off the bottom ones for most of them. Let's see, maybe there's one here I haven't. So you just pull it off. We're just going to use the tops of these for this design. The reason why florists add greenery into their designs is because, what did I just do? I just removed all the greenery from the stems. Why do you remove greenery from the stems? Because you don't want any leaves on the stems in the vase, because the leaves break down, they create like a green stuff that grows in there, some bacteria, clogs up the stems, also creates something called ethylene gas, and then that wilts flowers faster. So you want to get rid of all those leaves before you even design. So the thing that's great about cleaning all your flowers before you start designing is you kind of get a feel for how big they are, how strong the stems are, where you're going to place them before you even place them into the container. So it's a good idea to kind of do that ahead of time. Leave the length on of all the stems because you don't know how long you're going to need them to be, and then get started. One thing to note is before you do clean all of those flowers, you want to make sure that the flowers are nice and conditioned and hydrated, meaning wherever you got them from, you trimmed off about 2 inches off the bottom of the stems, put them in a bucket of water with flower food and let them sit for at least 1 to 2 hours. If you did buy them wholesale, maybe they were on a dry rack, you're going to need to let them hydrate longer than that, maybe even overnight, depending on the type of flower. You can watch some of our tips to learn more about that. First thing we're going to do is put in our hydrangea, and we have 5 of these. So we're going to put them in, go all the way across, and we're going to have them rest on the lip of the vase. So these, I'm going to have them fairly close to the vase, and I'm going to make these come out slightly farther. Just a little bit. So a little bit longer. Notice I'm cutting at an angle, and I'm placing my hydrangea into the vase almost immediately after cutting them. And I am trying to find spots in that chicken wire where it's nice and secure. And as you do stuff, you should toss your stems so that you can see what you're doing. Get rid of all your stuff you're not using in the design. Get rid of it off the table. This one's going to go right in the middle. I want it to be a little shorter. So you can always place it in and then test it and see if you like where it ends up. Then if not, pull it out. And I see how I twist, twist, twist to get it in when it's really tight. Twist, twist, twist. And you can also twist, twist, twist the stem to get it out. So I have my Mini Green Hydrangea in here. Now I'm going to take my Green Trick Dianthus and I'm going to place them right in between each of my Green Trick. Now when I cut these, remember I'm cutting and placing, I'm going to cut them in between, not right on the notch, but in between. So either here, if I want it to be long, that one I want it to be a little shorter, so I'm going to go up the next, in between the next notches. And if you're first starting flower arranging, you probably don't know where to cut it. So just kind of cut it longer than you think, then place it in. And if it's too long, pull it out and then cut it again. So then I have this one. I want to have kind of in the middle next to this guy. Next, we're going to add our white roses. Remember, we've already cleaned all these. So we're going to add these in between our green tricks and our mini green. So we're going to go around the base of our design. And if it's going to be tight in there because we have the chicken wire and the stems, so I'm going to give it a little more of a cut. See if I can find a spot. There we go. Really, all you're using the chicken wire for is to help secure the stem. So as long as you get it in the water and you get it at the angle you want, you don't need it to be super long. If it's too long, you know, there's too many stems in there, then you're going to have to maybe cut it. I do want the angle to come out. There we go. So there are my 4 roses around the base. Now I want to have 2 roses kind of right here, hugging the middle. So I want to have 1 here, so I want a little white there. And 1 here. That's too long. See how I just pulled it right out? I want to gently try to always feed it in by the stem, not the head of the flower, because you'll crush some flowers. You'll crush if you handle it by the head. So you got to try to find, there, twisting to get it in. So patience is a virtue with many things, and it can be with flowers getting it into your design. So now we have a nice evenly distributed white flowers so that your eye can move throughout the design. So now let's add some of our greenery back. So you need to look down underneath and see, where can I see some chicken wire? I need to hide that. So you're going to go around the base of your design and add some greenery wherever you see stems that you don't want to see, or you see chicken wire. And if it's too long, give it a cut. So you don't always have to put flowers in from the top. You can go from underneath the flowers you've already put in, and that adds some nice depth around the base of your design. This is a very round design that I'm showing today. You could keep some stems long and make it elongated if you like. The chicken wire will allow you to do that. So going around the base. Now that I've gone around the base all the way around, I think I used 5 or 6, I want to fill in some of these middle areas. And I don't want it to come up too high. I don't want it to compete with the flowers. I want it to complement the flowers. So don't want it to come up too high. I just want it to fill in some of that negative space. Still have 1 more flower to add after this, so I'm not too worried about adding too much green. So I need some here. Let's see. So I do have to sometimes move things around with my other hand. So this is sometimes you need both hands to get your flowers in. Don't think you can always just do it with 1 hand. This one's a little long. I'm going to cut it again. Pull off any leaves that are going to go below that water line in the vase. Okay, so now we have a nice basic green and white design. Okay, the last flowers are these anemones, which is going to be a little tricky because these stems are really soft and I don't have a lot of room left. So I want to be really careful when I add them. Plus some of these are a little bit curvy. So I'm going to look really far in and I'm going to try to see where I have space in that water, in between the chicken wire and the other stems, and try to fit it in. You know, if you are going to be moving this flower arrangement around, you want to make sure it's nice and deep into the design. There we go. So these anemones have very strong faces. So when you place them, you want to make sure people see them because they will make an impact. So this is where you're going to, remember, keep your stems long, and if you need to pull them out and cut them down to get them in. And anemones, when they're fresh, they're kind of closed, and as they open, they will flatten out. So give them room to do that in your design. Let them breathe, so to speak. Have room to open up. This one's a little bit fresher. It's not as open yet. It's smaller. So we just have 5 of these. So you want to make sure you distribute them around your design. So depending on where your audience is, they'll see at least one of these anemones. Anemones are expensive flowers, so you just are going to have a few that go a long way. You can also use sometimes the hydrangea as overwater architecture to hold flowers in place. Other flowers you could use instead of anemones, you could use those dianthus or ranunculus. Would be pretty also as an accent. Tulips, just know that tulips will continue to grow too after they've been cut. So I'm going to give this room to open. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit so it has room to open up in the design. And that is it. That was nice and fast, beautiful, inspired by St. Patrick's Day. And I hope you enjoyed this Flower Arranging Friday from Flower Duet.